about the divine feminine, and today's talk is on nurturing as strength. You know, generally we have referred to God in masculine terms, right? And his, her, I mean, his, him, and he pronouns. That when we're talking about God, we're using usually those masculine kinds of pronouns. And so what has happened is the feminine has over the years been subjugated and ignored and pushed to the side. And yet at the same time, what has also happened, what the truth is that it's not just God the Father, it's God, Mother, Father, God, because the mother and the father together bring forth creation. And so, you know, we want to start thinking about life in a different way. And actually, you know, life, our outer life is bringing us to a place where we have to start thinking about things a little bit differently than they have. But let's go back to this whole idea of the mother. You stop and think about the mother, about the seed, okay? You take a seed and you plant it in the soil, you water it, you leave it for a few days, and what happens? It starts pushing up. Have you ever seen those films where they have done fast forward in plants and the plant is bursting through, right? It has to burst through the soil. That is the Mother Earth taking care of the seed which has been planted. And now it's bringing it forth, and it's bringing forth the creation, right? What does it create? It creates what the masculine, the father, has planted in it. All right. So it's not if you plant tomato seed, you're not going to get flowers. You're going to get tomatoes. If you plant flowers, you're going to get that kind of flower that you planted. And so one of the things that we have to keep in mind is that the creation is going to create whatever it is that the word has put into form, into the soil, or the form, or the creative energy. Okay, so the feminine is actually the creative energy of the earth. And you know, we have a society that has focused mostly on that masculine aspect, in terms of, we talk about what we want. If you can go to any store, any bookstore, and it will tell you what, this is how you get this, and this is how you get that, and you know, if you want more money, you do this, and if you want a better job, you do that. And all of this is focused on what? The outer, the you know, the stuff of the world that you have to do. All of that is focused on the word, or telling things what it is that you want to happen. But they don't ever tell you how it happens. They just, you know, they just know. Why? Because the creative energy, once you focus your mind, the creative energy takes hold, and it makes it into whatever it is it's going to be. And so all of the creative energy, there's a pushing forth and a pushing out from within, right? So you have the word that goes in, and then it pushes out. And what is the pushing out? It's a birth. Right? Stop and think about what's happening right now. We are in a birthing process. It's painful. Birthing processes are painful. But at the same time, what happens after the birth? Joy, right? And you know that it comes from a place of love. All right, so let's back up just a little bit. Do you remember a few years ago, back in the 70s, there were transcendental meditation? How many of you heard of transcendental meditation? Okay. All right. So the transcendental meditators, they committed to doing some experiments, and they did some experiments to see if they could reduce the amount of violence in various cities. They, starting in the 70s, and they've continued these experiments into about 2010. And what they have done is gone to various communities, and they'll just sit and meditate for a certain period of time. And they found that they have been able to reduce the crime, as well as murders, homicides, by 20% or more. Okay. And so you say, well, you know, how can they do that? People who don't understand, like we do, don't understand why. But Ernest Holmes tells us why. He says, undoubtedly, each of us is now demonstrating his concept of life. but trained thought, which is, you know, because they're meditating, they're trained, okay? Trained thought is far more powerful than untrained thought. And the one who gives conscious power to his thought should be more careful of what he thinks than the one who does not. The more power one gives to his thought, the more completely he believes that his thought has power, and the more power it will have. Okay, so what he's saying there is that each one of us through our thought has power. If we are walking around, you know, not paying attention, how many times have you know, been driving somewhere and you weren't paying attention, all of a sudden you were like, oh, this is my exit. Okay, why? Because you weren't paying attention, were you? Your thought was out wandering the world somewhere, and it wasn't being creative in the way in which you want it to be. And so what the meditators have done is they have focused their thought so completely on not the world having less murders, but on spirit and life and the goodness and the joy of love and all the peace and everything that we think of when we're meditating. We just focusing our minds. And so when we focus our thought, then what happens? We start to create things in our own life. Ernest Holmes says, the mind must conceive before creative energy can produce. So the conception is what? The planting of the seed. And then the creative energy takes over. And so, you know, this has been an interesting week, because last Sunday we thought we would be back at church, and this Sunday we are not. And we are told in some places, you know, shelter in place and stay at home. If you're over 60, you're probably in danger of getting the disease. And, you know, we're being told all these things in the outer world. And what happens when we're told these things and we are not given any assurance, because what we want is assurance that something good is going to come out of it, then what happens is we go into a state of fear, don't we? And we think that sometimes we're not really in a state of fear, but we are. And let me show you how subtle fear is. Think about the last time you were hurrying to get to work. Okay, you were trying to get there, and you had a deadline. You were supposed to be there by 9 o'clock, and you're rushing to get there. What's the underlying fear underneath it? There's the fear that what? You're not going to get there, that you're going to be late. Okay, or maybe you had a bill that you needed to pay and you forgot to pay it, and then you start to worry and you start to be afraid that what? You're not going to make that bill get paid on time, and you're going to get a late penalty. So you see, we have these subtle fears that are always kind of underneath, and they're subtle, and we're not paying attention to them, and yet they're running our lives. And so now we're in a place where we can, number one, we can start paying attention to the fear, because it can be so large. If you find yourself saying, you know, to yourself, well, I can't go outside because I might get sick, notice the fear underneath it. Now, you can convert that. How do you convert it? By choosing to stay home. Do you see the difference? You don't have to, if you say, well, I'm not going to go to the grocery store because I'm 65 and I might get sick if I go to the grocery store. I'm operating out of a sense of fear. However, if I say, you know, I'm 65, they're saying that the disease is more toxic to people who are over 65. So I think I'll just stay home and find other ways of doing what I'm doing. You see the difference? There's an empowerment in the second, which is not there in the first. Shake your head, yes, okay. Okay, all right, notice. I see everybody sitting there just, okay, you can be animated because I can see you. Okay, all right. So we want to do what we're being told, but we don't want to come to it from a place of fear, because remember, we have been working with trained thought. Okay. We have been working with how to train our thought and how to train our thinking. All right, so that means that we become, we're at a choice. We don't have to succumb to the beliefs that everybody out there has had. CSL has a vision that says awakening humanity to its spiritual magnificence. That's a CSL vision, awakening humanity to its spiritual magnificence. And ours at West Georgia is a joyful global community where everyone belongs. Now stop and think about that. What is happening in the world today? There's a sense of belonging, right? The walls are shutting down. Even though people, when they are willing, are sharing information, right? They're sharing ways to be healthy and to be whole, or to care for people. People are volunteering more than they ever volunteered before. People are stepping up. Some people are afraid, but many people are stepping up. Just think about all the people who have voluntarily stayed home. Can you think about that? I mean, you look at the videos on TV, and they're showing streets that are virtually empty, where people are sheltering as they've been asked to do, not told to do, but asked to do. And they're moving along in this, in an agreement with all the things that is going on right now. Millions of people are doing this. Why are they doing this? Something is going on within us as humanity, right? That is causing us to say, you know what? I'm willing to be here and care for one another. I think that we are in the process of a great birthing that is coming forth, that none of us knows what it's going to be, because we haven't come to a universal agreement on it. But at the same time, we're in this process, aren't we? We're in this process, and you and I, who have been in this thinking and have used these ideas for years and have made them be parts of our own lives, have now got to start expanding our thoughts so that we are inclusive of everybody else in the world. So that what we're doing is training our thought not to be in fear, but to be in faith and lifting up everybody. Do you get me? Do you understand? Because something is happening, and we are a part of it. The minister that I had in my other church, and I love this, and I want us all to say it, something great and wonderful is happening, and I am a part of it. Ready? Something great and wonderful is happening, and I am a part of it. So unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. Okay, and we're going to say it all together. Ready? Something
great and wonderful is happening, and I am a part of it.
Yes. Can you believe that?
Yes.
So write that down somewhere, and when you find yourself stressed or you can't go out, Angela's got her book up, she writes her notes, and you find yourself stressed, you can't go out, or this is happening, or this is blockade, or whatever, something great and wonderful is happening, and I am a part of it. Something is birthing. The divine feminine is coming into form. The mother of the earth is voicing her expression of life. And good things are happening. Good things are happening. There's not so much pollution in the air. The canals of Venice are cleaning up the water, and all kinds of really good things are happening. And so we're being a part of it. I saw this article by a scientist. There was a scientist about 7 or 8 years ago who, and unfortunately I forgot to write down his name, but anyway, he predicted this pandemic, and along with a bunch of others, but he's an epidemiologist, and he said, given other things that had happened, this is what happened. He had helped with the eradication of smallpox. And so he had been studying pandemics, and he said, you know, we've got one coming in a few years, and this is what we need to do to prepare. And of course, nobody listened to him. But he says this. He says, I think this is really important because I don't know if you noticed, but somewhere in the 70s and 80s, the scientists started understanding quantum physics. And scientists who had not believed in God were starting to believe in God because they started to realize there was things going on that they absolutely could not understand. So he said, well, I'm a scientist, but I'm also a person of faith. And I can't ever look at something without asking the question of, isn't there a higher power that in some way will help us to be the best version of ourselves that we could be? Okay, a scientist is saying this, all right? He says, I thought we would see the equivalent of empty streets in the civic arena, but the amount of civic engagement is greater than I've ever seen. But I'm seeing young kids, millennials, who are volunteering to go take groceries to people who are homebound, elderly. I'm seeing an incredible influx of nurses, heroic nurses, who are coming and working many more hours than they worked before. Doctors who fearlessly go into the hospital to work. I've never seen the kind of volunteerism I'm seeing. I don't want to pretend that this is an exercise worth going through in order to get to that state. This is a really unprecedented and difficult time that will test us. When we do get through it, maybe like the Second World War, it will cause us to re-examine what has caused the fractional division we have in this country. The virus is an equal opportunity infector, and it's probably the way we would be better if we saw ourselves that way, which is much more alike than different. I mean, is that not awesome? I just, you know, I read that and it was like, it's just amazing to me that a scientist would say something like that and would be in that place. And this is not going to be a week or 2 weeks. This is going to be longer than that. It may last 2 months or 3 months, and we will have to get through it. But how will we get through it? We will get through it by taking one day at a time, by knowing that the creative energy, the mother gods, the mother, the divine feminine, the creative energy is at work in our world. And that each one of us is participating in it. And the way we get to participate in it is to hold our consciousness in a place where we are knowing the truth at all times. And we are going to be stressed to do that. We're going to be challenged to do that. But that is what we are capable of doing. We're sort of like those TM meditators. They were trained, and you and I have been trained. We've been trained to think in ways that are uplifting and positive and loving. And we know that love conquers fear. And I have a dog here that is trying to say something, but I'm not going to let her. And so, you know, the thing is that remember that this is a choice, that we are always at choice. We can choose to succumb to the fear, or we can choose to be empowered and make choices to say, you know what, I'm participating in something great, wonderful, and magnificent that is occurring in the life of each and every person on our earth today. And so what do we say? Something great and wonderful is happening, and I am a part of it. And so it is. And I'm glad we got everybody in because I forgot to look. So let's turn within. And we just take a moment to feel the love within ourselves. To find that open heart space within, that place where we are compassionate and caring, where the love knows no bounds, for it is the God's love that is flowing through us. And as we open ourselves to this love, let us just envision our earth from outer space. Just think of the whole universe. Just pull it all into your consciousness and just overflow your love over the whole planet. Just knowing that everyone is involved and enveloped in the love that you have in your heart right now. For this love is God's love, and God's love has no limits. This love is the mother, the creative energy love, and it has no limits. And this love knows exactly where it is needed most, and it uplifts each person that is needing that love and compassion and caring and support right now. Whether they are walking the streets and helping, or whether they are in a sick bed, or whether they are with a doctor or a nurse, regardless of where they are and what they are doing, let us know right here and now they are surrounded, they are uplifted, they are enveloped, they are infused with love that is so mighty that it turns all fear into a joyful experience of giving and of experiencing the fullness and completeness of who and what they are right where they are. We are knowing in this moment that there is a truth that is running through all of humankind, uplifting us all, regardless of where we are. And that truth is that truth that is God. And it doesn't matter what religion we are, what race we are, what sex we are, what nationality we are. That truth is the truth of humanity, and we are all part of it. We are all one with it. And so we are accepting it right here and right now and uplifting it all with love and with joy, and knowing that whatever the conditions are, whatever our experiences are, they are only temporary. They are here for the moment while we are engaged in moving forth and birthing a new life, a new world, a new experience for us as human beings. And so we gratefully participate in knowing this truth and allowing it to be the full and complete expression of who and what we are. We joyfully express ourselves in a most wonderful way as we go about our individual lives each and every day. And so we are knowing that this is truth unfolding in us and through us and as us right here and right now is the goodness, the peace, the joy, the love, and all of that which we so desire in our lives right now, expressing itself fully and completely. And so with this, we know that it is done because the law of God, the creative energy that is the feminine, divine within us, is expressing in our world. And we ask not how, but we just simply know that it is, and we let it be. And so with gratitude and thanksgiving for this and so much more, knowing that this word expresses itself perfectly everywhere, I am releasing it into the law, knowing that in this moment it is done. And so it is.